This year's D23 came with a ton of exciting announcements for the Disney parks. We got news on Tropical Americas at Animal Kingdom, Avengers Campus at California Adventure, and a new Cars attraction coming to the Magic Kingdom. However, while all of these announcements came with a set location, there was one announcement made for Walt Disney World that was a lot less clear. At the event, Disney revealed that Hollywood Studios would be getting a brand new Monsters Inc. land featuring an indoor suspended roller coaster. While the announcement was met with praise when it was first revealed, as the days went by, people began to notice something troubling about the concept art. While one piece of concept art shows clear evidence of one location, the other seems to hint at the removal of a fan-favorite attraction. In this video, I want to look at everything we know so far to determine which of these two locations is the most likely. For more videos like this, be sure to subscribe, and without further ado, let's solve the mystery of Monsters Inc. at Hollywood Studios. Animation Courtyard and Star Wars Launch Bay have been a bit of a dead zone in this park for many years now. While there are a few meet and greets that can drum up a crowd, it's nowhere near enough to justify its existence. With that being said, it makes a ton of sense that Disney would be considering this plot of land to expand Hollywood Studios. Right now, this place feels like a remnant of what this park used to be, and not in a good way. It's old and empty, which is why a refresh of this location would be so fitting. It would draw in a ton more people than are currently there, adding capacity to this park in a major way. It would also give more reason for people to stay near the front of the park, rather than immediately heading towards Galaxy's Edge. The land does admittedly feel a bit small when you're in it, but I could see Disney expanding this area by tearing down either one of the stage shows flanking the sides of the pathway. If they want to keep one of the shows though, that would allow for an easy retheme and extra capacity for something like Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. Still, there are a variety of downsides with this location that make it much more difficult to work with. There's no restaurant already present within this land, so Disney would need to build that from the ground up. However, the biggest and most annoying hurdle for Disney with this location would be the moving of backstage areas. Right behind Star Wars Launch Bay is a massive set of office buildings where a ton of cast members work. If Disney wanted to use this location, they'd have to transfer all of those cast members to a new location before being able to begin demolition. In going through all that trouble, there would be a lot more land for them to work with, even if it's a bit of a strange layout. The other costly reason why Disney wouldn't want to use this location is the upcoming replacement for Voyage of the Little Mermaid. This new show, called The Little Mermaid: A Musical Adventure, was announced to be opening in the fall of this year. With construction beginning on this Monsters Inc. land next year, this show would likely be closed without even hitting a year-long run. With how close this show is to being ready, this sudden change could be an expensive one. All of that is likely why Disney also considered this next location. Formerly known as Muppet's Courtyard, Grand Avenue features plenty of infrastructure that would make a Monsters Inc. land extremely easy to create. The cons are a little more obvious though, so let's start off with those. First, in case it wasn't clear from the internet's reaction, Muppet Vision 3D is a fan-favorite attraction for Disney Parks fans. Now, those fans don't represent everyone who goes to the Disney parks, but they do make up a fair amount of Disney's audience. Removing this attraction would seem like an act of ill will by Disney, which probably isn't how they want to come off. Muppet Vision is also a bit historic, with it being the last piece of Muppets media that Jim Henson ever directed. Now, I'll admit I'm unsure how much history really matters in the Disney parks, but it is an argument that I could see Disney taking into consideration. While those are more sentimental reasons why Disney should keep this ride around, there are some practical reasons to consider as well. Rather than replacing the dead zone that is Animation Courtyard, Muppet Vision 3D does draw in a fair amount of crowds. Admittedly, it isn't a ton of people all the time, but it's enough where the capacity gain wouldn't be as much as Animation Courtyard would. Another point to consider here is the land next door to this attraction. Disney was so obsessed with getting the sightlines right for Galaxy's Edge that they removed the balloon that used to sit on top of Muppet Vision 3D. With a giant ride building now needing to be constructed, it could mean that sightlines would need to be reworked for this area of the park. Even if they were able to work around all that, this addition would mean that Galaxy's Edge has little area to expand in the next few years. If they wanted to add a third attraction to the land, they'd have to find more space within the existing plot, which would be far more difficult than expanding into Grand Avenue and connecting the land with Star Tours. Honestly, I'm unsure if Disney would ever want to expand Galaxy's Edge with a third attraction, but replacing this land does limit that option in the future. Finally, using this plot of land would limit the space for the Monsters Inc. roller coaster itself. While there's plenty of infrastructure that could be rethemed leading up to the ride, the coaster itself would have little space in the backstage area of this park. Just as a comparison, I don't think the ride building could be much bigger than the one used for Crush's coaster at Disneyland Paris, which is already a pretty compact ride. The model on the show floor for this Monsters Inc. coaster does look pretty short, so it's possible they could fit it in somehow. Regardless, it wouldn't be a ton of space for them to work with, so they might want to go with Animation Courtyard instead. With all that said, there are a fair amount of pros to this location as well. First and foremost, this would be a far simpler project. Grand Avenue already sort of looks like a big city, with the concept art even showing what appears to be some of the facades reworked into the Monstropolis skyline. There's also plenty of infrastructure already built in, with a quick service restaurant, table service restaurant, restrooms, a gift shop, and even the potential for a rethemed stage show. If they do decide to retheme Muppet Vision, along with adding a new coaster in this land, it would be an overall plus for capacity at the park. Not only would you have a show with a more relevant IP, but you would also have a coaster that's sure to be a highly popular addition. The backstage areas are easier to work around as well, making this a far cheaper and easier option if Disney decides to go for it. While those pros do honestly make it seem like Muppet Vision is the most likely option, there has been a fair amount of evidence that suggests Disney may save this attraction after all. The concept art we've been discussing for this plot of land appears to have been made all the way back in 2020, which may mean this is an early concept that they're no longer considering. At the same time, we have no idea how old the other piece of concept art is, and I have to admit that it seems far less defined than the one for Muppet Vision. Not to mention, there's an article from The Wrap that claims there was a third piece of concept art more clearly showing the Muppet Vision location. That same article does state the art was pulled last minute due to potential fan backlash, so it's possible they're gauging the reaction online before making a final decision. At the same time, they could just be waiting to give the bad news, like they did with the closure of Rivers of America. However, this last piece of evidence seems to be the biggest indicator that Disney might be saving Muppet Vision after all. A few days ago, a software developer at Disney shared the news that the company had informed them they would be moving their offices out of Hollywood studios. If this is the case, that removes the biggest hurdle for Monsters Inc. in Animation Courtyard, and could mean Disney is beginning preparation to start construction in this land. Still, despite how definitive this seems, it is entirely possible that this move is instead due to some internal restructuring rather than a demolition of the building. It does seem more likely now that Animation Courtyard will be the location, but it still hasn't been confirmed by Disney themselves. So, with all that said, where will this new land be located? When I first started writing this video a few days ago, I was convinced that despite everything, Disney would still choose the Muppet Vision plot of land because of how easy it would be to rework. However, with new evidence continuing to pop up over the last few days, I'm beginning to think it's more and more likely that Animation Courtyard could actually be the choice instead. Objectively, this plot of land is way more expensive and difficult to work with. If Disney wasn't listening to the fans, they definitely would have gone with the cheaper option instead. However, if all this evidence is to be believed, it does appear that Disney might be making a genuine effort to listen to their fans and keep Muppet Vision around for even longer. I don't want to get my hopes up too high, since as I said, we haven't heard any conclusive proof one way or the other. We should know for sure within the next few days, but right now anything we have is just an educated guess. As for my own educated guess, I'm surprised to say that I think Animation Courtyard might be Disney's pick after all. It wasn't the choice I expected them to make, but it's by far the best decision for the fans and the park as a whole. No matter what happens at the end of all this, I hope Muppet Vision gets to live on for a very long time. It's an extremely special attraction, and one of the best that Disney has ever created. Be sure to tell me your thoughts on all this in the comments down below, and check out this video for my thoughts on this year's D23. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more, and I'll see you all next time.